Welcome to the World Away.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the World Awaits. How are you all? How's your week been, Kirstie?
I've been so busy. I was away in Port Douglas recently, which I think I did mention in an early episode. Oh, mind you, we've been on winter series, so maybe not. And yes, I absolutely loved it. I didn't realise actually how close it was to Mossman and the Daintree. So, gosh, 20 minutes and you're in Mossman Gorge in the beautiful, lush rainforest with those crystal clear waterholes, which I didn't swim in because it was too cold. Yeah, beautiful. I've also just been busy doing lots of luxury travel interviews for Carry On, and I'm editing my second manuscript, which needs to go to my agent soon. So, and I'm doing Dry July. So I am on fire, Belle, so much energy. So much more energy. Not that I'm a big, massive drinker anyway, but it just hits harder, right? So even a couple of drinks now, I don't know, or maybe I've become such a lightweight. So anyway, but yeah, so that's basically sort of about it. What about you? What have you been doing, Belle?
Well, while you were up in Port Douglas, I was staying closer afield. I stayed in a farm outside Benalla in central Victoria, and the farm is called Dunmore Farm. You've got to look it up. It's so good. It had this hot tub out in the middle of the paddocks that was heated up by a little wood stove. So the only problem is while we were staying there, it was bucketing down. It was raining so much that our gorgeous host said, "Would you girls like some gumboots?" So I was there with my friend June. So cue to 8 o'clock at night, pitch black. Even the cattle are black. Can't see anything. You can just hear them. The rain stops, and we put on bikinis and gumboots and run out into the paddock to sit in this hot tub. It was hilarious. It was so good. It was like we said to Meg,
I was in 27 degrees and there were no bikinis. But we did cycle and we did a bit of hiking and cycling, but I cycled along the beach. There's a 6 kilometre beach at Port Douglas, but
yeah.
but no bikinis, even though I probably should have been the one in the bikini given the climate compared
Oh
to.
my God. It was just, well, you wouldn't, all you can say, well, I am luminously winter white at the moment. So you look like a ghost running through the fattest wispy gumboots on up to my knees. It was, yeah, it's been real. I went to the opening of the Nordic Film Festival as well. So speaking of more cold things, like basically Sami reindeer herders up in Norwegian Lapland. That was fabulous. I went with Alistair, who is our sound producer and also our film reviewer. And do you know what else I did? More cold stuff. I am going to Sweden for Christmas to see my family, and I am so impressed with this. I booked it all on points. I did it on point, like I cracked it. So we're flying up from Melbourne back to Melbourne return on points, and the whole thing cost me about $300 a ticket return.
Amazing, so good.
But look, if you want to work out how to do this sort of thing, go back to listen to Toby Venus from Point Hack. He's on a couple of interviews ago, and he'll help you hack that one. And I know I finished booking it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just like, wow, I am the hero. So that was going on, and then the last thing we did was the Australian Society of Travel Writers had a lunch. It was the Solomon Islands came to town, so everybody, when they were organising it, the organisers said, "Do you think anybody in Melbourne would actually like to go to the Solomons?" And I'm like, "You're coming to bring us palm trees and blue skies in the middle of a Melbourne winter. Hello, yes, because it's only a 3-hour flight from Brisbane. How amazing is that?" So
Amazing.
yeah, I think we need, Bessie,
Amazing.
I think we need to go to the Sollies. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we do. Or Port Douglas. Oh my God, I love Port Douglas so much. Palm trees, and white sand, hard packed beach where you can cycle across, and 20 minutes from hiking in the Mossman Gorge. Oh my God, I was in
That is
heaven.
an
Anyway,
exceptional beach. That is a brilliant. I went to the food festival up there, which is on every year. So we highly recommend. Yes. Oh my goodness, I ate myself a second backside. Delicious.
yeah, no, it is gorgeous up there. Well, this week we are going to be talking travel books to inspire you, and we also have some interesting research on the top Australian tourist attractions. But first up, we have some really important major news in travel, don't we, Belle?
I know it is the biggest story in travel at the moment. There has been a major and many will say, highly overdue announcement regarding passenger arrival cards. Finally, those old yellow arrival cards are going to be ditched.
Yeah, so the digital replacement will be rolled out over the next 18 months, and it applies to everyone, including Australians coming back home. And it's part of what the government says is a more than $56 million spend over 4 years for modernising the airports around Australia.
Yeah, Senator Don Farrell, who's the Minister for Trade and Tourism, said that it means, well, yeah, he said visitors can spend less time filling out forms and more time enjoying everything that Australia has to offer, helping it to make it an easier and more welcoming place to visit. And also, I mean, more importantly, it makes the arrival process easier, right?
Yeah. And the government also says that the funding will also be provided for co-design work with industry to improve departure and cruise clearance. I mean, who doesn't want anything improved to, make your entry or departure easier? Support border agencies in managing strong growth in traveller volumes post-COVID and ahead of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Yeah, look, I think when you go to places as far-flung as Turkmenistan, which has had digital arrivals for years, it's amazing that we've hung on to these old paper cards for so long. But, Kirstie, what I will miss is the conversations that start up when everyone around you wants to borrow your pen.
If you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best.
This week, we have another hot take for you, and we are chatting travel books. I love travel books. Some people read biographies, some people read crime. That's you, Kirstie. I have devoured travel accounts for decades.
Yeah, so look, admittedly, most of my reading in recent years has been crime and thriller and psychological suspense, given that's the genre that I'm writing in. So you'll always find me on planes and trains and tucked up in bed at night with a twisty crime in my head. But there are some really good destination crime books too, so keep listening because we'll get to those soon.
But first, look, we're going to give, before we give our top picks, we are going to start with some of the favourite books of a man who was behind travel guidebooks himself, Tony Wheeler. So Tony co-founded Lonely Planet in the 1970s with his wife, and some of his favourite travel books include one called, I think this is his top one, Swallows and Amazons, which is by Arthur Ransom. He says when he was 10 years old, this was the last book his parents ever read to him. It's actually quite sad, isn't it? And it's a major reason Lonely Planet guides are so full of maps because the map of lakes you could sail to are just so quirky.
He also recommends Atlas of Remote Islands by Judith Shalansky, which is one he says he's probably given away more copies of the title than any other title of book. And he says the subtitle 50 Islands I Have Never Set Foot On and Never Will tells it all. In 2023, he had been to 6 on the list when he visited Norfolk Island. And he says if you've reached double figures, then you're definitely a serious traveller. His third top travel book pick is The Road to Oceania by Robert Byron, regularly listed as the best book from travel writing's golden era between the wars. Hilarious and frighteningly perceptive, he says, about a lot of things that would happen in Central Asia 50 years later. And in fact, he says much of what Byron wrote about Iran and Afghanistan is still spot on today.
Yeah, absolutely. An amazing book. Like one that you should definitely put on the list if you're interested in this part of the world. For his travel novels, he chose Mr. Pitt, which is by Kiwi author Lloyd Jones, and it's set in Bougainville. It's totally ignored and utterly brutal civil war, only a stone's throw from Cairns in Northern Australia. So virtually nothing was written about this weird war, which is pretty much, what always has set, I think, Tony Wheeler apart. He's a very curious man. So he and it was about a war about a huge open cut mine and the billions of dollars that it generated. So, of course, Tony went there, visited the mine in 1978, then travelled through Bougainville in what he said was an amazing trip as part of his book Dark Lands, which he published in 2012. And he says that the mine site was like a dystopian movie set, like something out of a Mad Max film.
He also recommends Cat's Cradle by Kirk Vonnegut Jr. And he says that the best science fiction creates an alternative world or takes you traveling to a place we'll never really get to. And this title qualifies on that count. But also it has he's saying that it has a really warped sense of humour. And if you want a vivid account of how we can really screw up our world with climate change, then the invention of what the author calls Ice Nine does it.
Yeah, he's got some curious picks in this one, because the last
Yep.
one we're going to mention is the sci-fi writer William Gibson, who wrote Mona Lisa Overdrive, amongst many other books as well. So another science fiction alternative world, so marginally displaced from the corners of the world today. Think backpacker enclaves in Singapore and Japan, Japan's capsule hotels. Yeah, it was a curious choice. But I think that's the thing with travel, isn't it? Like, travel books they sting to everybody completely differently. So when I was going through the list of my favorite travel books, I kind of went back to the ones that that I read right at the beginning of my career. So they actually tend to reflect the fact that I was living in the UK and Ireland at the time, and they were a lot of them, I think, are kind of classics of the genre. And with that, I'm going to kick off with Paul Theroux, who is the documentary maker Louis' father. He wrote a book called The Happy Isles of Oceania, which he's basically kayaking through the Isles of Oceania, and he also visited Australia. And he said in that book that the Australian Book of Etiquette is a very slim novel. And I did read, when he came on his author's tour, he was so insulting about Australia that he actually got slapped at one of the book signings, like a bloke slapped him. So I always thought he'd always been his son is a polarizing man. He is a polarizing. He got it from his dad, because the book that he wrote in 1975, The Great Railway Bazaar, stays beside my bed. And then he revisited that journey, which was London to Asia, by train in Ghost Train to the Eastern Star. So I just think he's such a classic. And I think that's been what all of my reading has been like. Like, the next one that I would have chosen was William Dalrymple in Xanadu, which he wrote in 1989. He wrote it, he was 22 when he wrote this book, and he was tracing Marco Polo's journey that he took in 1271 from Jerusalem. I know, it was incredible. Through Jerusalem, Syria, Iran, Pakistan, and into Xanadu in China and the ruined summer palace of Kublai Khan. Because he was in Scotland, he was Scottish, studying history and literature there. Met this girl at a dinner party. She became his girlfriend. 2 weeks later, they head off. Like 2 weeks later, after the dinner party meeting, they head off on this trip. But they had this in the book. They had this experience. They were in Iran, and she had been wearing a burqa just for the, just to sort of cut through all of the dramas that happened with that. And it's really stayed with me, the scene where the recounting when they step across into Pakistan, and in front of the watching eyes of the Iranians, she rips her burqa off and shucks it out because she bloody hated it because it was so hot and so heavy. That just really stuck with me. He's still got a history podcast, Empire, if you want more. But if you were looking for something a bit lighter, I would go for, and staying in India, I would look at Holy Cow, which is done by the ABC radio presenter Sarah McDonald. It is so good. It is so funny. It's, sadhus wiping themselves with the ashes of human remains and all of that sort of thing, and all the diseases that you could get while traveling low to the ground in India. I thought she was really good. But when I was living in Ireland, particularly at the time, I was doing a lot of long distance hiking, 3-4 months at a time, a lot of semi altitudes. I decided I never wanted to go to Everest because I thought, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, that it was too overrun even then. I mean, have a look at what's happening there now. But I did read I read a lot of mountaineering books. And 2 of them would have been like seminal books for me. Eric Newby's A Short Walk in the Hindu Kush. So this is an English writer. He wrote it in 1958 about his travels in the Nuristan Mountains of Afghanistan. And it's just got that classic English sense of humor, because he'd been working in the rag trade in London, and then he was told to go to Afghanistan spectacularly unprepared, which made me feel really good about it, because, a lot of the mountaineering stuff you read now is highly technical and super supported. And then in that same era, the 1950s account, the French expedition climbing Annapurna, which was written by Maurice Herzog, they were the first ones to summit the peak. And the scene that sticks with me then is of the doctors. It was so brutal, and he had incredible frostbite. They took refuge in a railway carriage. And when they'd finished the journey, the doctors had to cut people's fingers off from frostbite. And he actually lost all his fingers and all his toes. And there's this scene that he said he looked, and the bottom of the railway carriage was just littered with black that they cut from there. So I just thought, I don't know. It's, it was so incredibly written. The thing that I read that first years, like decades ago, and it's still with me. So it shows what a powerful piece of writing it is. But for sheer grit, and this is my last one, for sheer grit and fearlessness, I would recommend the Irish author Dervla Murphy. And I think I've mentioned her on the podcast before. She rode her bicycle from Ireland to India in 1965. So she's riding she's riding through lands that are held by warlords, and she's just never left Ireland. She just pedaled through and she documented the whole thing. Later on, she would take her 6-year-old daughter, Rachel, walking in the Karakoram Mountains in the Western Himalayas with a pony. And she just took her daughter and made her daughter walk with her. And her daughter went on to become a journalist. And sadly, Dervla passed away a couple of years ago. She was like 85 or something with 20 books under her belt. But I used that as a personal motivation when I started taking my young daughter traveling in her first adventures in Fiji and in Sri Lanka and Egypt. I mean, very different circumstances. But, children are shaped by how we, at that age, how we shape them. And if we say to them, you can climb this mountain in the Himalayas as a 6-year-old, then you just climb the mountain in the Himalayas as a 6-year-old. And I just think it was, for me, it really was it was almost a parenting novel, a parenting manual as well.
Well, Yasmin is incredible and for her age and very well travelled and yeah, I absolutely believe those experiences have shaped the way she is. So kudos to you. And that's so cool that book inspired you, to take her. That's just so special. Well, I mean, that's to balance all that out. Let me leave you with some destination crime books. So most of these are TV series now. And they're all good and all Australian authors. So let me start with Everyone on the Train is a Suspect by Australian author Benjamin Stevenson. So this was published in 2023 and it's a locked room murder mystery which follows a group of crime authors. I mean, God, this is just my heaven, right? Attending a literary festival on the famous Gun train. And it travels between Darwin and Adelaide. So it's a great read if you are actually going on the train or any train journey.
You mean you could get murdered on the train? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Watch out for that. Another one is The Private Island by Australian author. Like I said, they're all Australian authors. Ali Lowe, and this is a thriller that she released last year. It's like one of those books that you can just pick up and read, like a book club book, right? Where you can just pick up at the airport and read it in one go. And it's a New Year's Eve whodunit set on Loloma Island, which is a fictional Fijian resort, but it's directly based on her own experiences of being on Castaway Island. So I love that. I love it when authors do that. And also check out Melbourne crime writer Andrea Barton. So Andrea's written 5 books in the Jade Riley series. She's also vice president of the Mansfield Readers and Writers Festival. And Andrea bases all her books on places that she's lived around the world. So her books are based in Nigeria, the US, Qatar, Melbourne. And you can hear an interview I did with her back at episode 134. So go back to that. And since then, her latest book, The Desert Thief, has been released, and it was based on Doha in a place that she's made up called Nusat. So yeah, her books are incredible. They can be read as standalones too, so you don't have to read all of them in the series. And of course, it would be remiss of me not to mention Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. This is again another classic locked room mystery where a Q Poirot must find a killer aboard a luxurious paddle steamer travelling down the Nile. So a great classic. And I'm throwing in a non-fiction actually because I just got sent this book. Oh my God, it is incredible. This coffee table book is called Hidden in Plain Sight, and it's by Ronan O'Connell, who's a Perth-based travel writer and photographer, and he's got more than 20 years experience. it covers famous landmarks around the world with stories that you've never heard of. So this book is the epitome of investigative journalism and extensive research. He travelled all over the world, discovering the most remarkable, incredible mysteries and myths and marvels around popular landmarks. So I'm actually interviewing Ronan about his book on a later episode, probably 158. And it includes stories like how Paris's Eiffel Tower is actually linked to an exotic dancer who secretly influenced World War One. I mean, my God, that alone is going to make you want to read it, right? And this book is just so beautiful. It's the photography in it is really remarkable. It's incredible that he's actually a travel writer first. But so yes, so please have a listen to that, because that is so I think just that's such a clever concept and really interesting. I'll be poring over that book for weeks. And lastly, a bit of a shameless plug here, but keep an eye out for my book, which is a psychological suspense set between Melbourne and an island that I've made up near Sumba in Indonesia. And yes, you can.
Sorry, can I just interrupt here? Does it have a title yet? Even a working title?
Yes, we do have a title. It's called White Lies. It's called White Lies. And yes, and I haven't got a cover or anything yet, and I'm still working through edits. So, but you can find out. It will be released in June next year, and you can find out more at KirstieBedford.com, where you can sign up to my newsletter.
Our tip this week is from travel experts at Igloo Cruise, who have come up with the top 10 tourist attractions in Australia. So the team analysed 40 of Australia's top tourist attractions on TripAdvisor, calculated the percentage of 5-star reviews for each attraction, and these were the top 10.
Yes, I think we've both actually been to all of these top 10. First up was Whitehaven Beach. Stunning. I actually flew over it in a seaplane about 2 years ago. Oh my God, magical. It's protected by the Whitsunday Islands National Park and in the heart of the Great Barrier Reef. And it's been voted the world's top eco-friendly beach and Queensland's cleanest beach. I think this one really deserves its spot at number one, although, I mean, I don't know, Uluru maybe, but yeah, let's see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, the beach thing has always got its lure, and it's possibly easier to get to than Uluru. No, I don't know if that's actually the case. But number 2 was Sydney Harbour, and the Bondi to Coogee Walk came in at number 3. Uluru is there. That is number 4, and I think it's much deserved. And actually, there's a new resort opening in Uluru in the coming year or so. Yeah, which is really interesting. So I think what that shows is how Uluru is changing, like in terms of the access, the fact that you can just jump on a Jetstar flight up there now, and so I think it's becoming much more opened up to people. It doesn't have that hard slog to get there.
Although I think people saying at the new Beacons, it's a Beacons retreat, and it's like the premier version of Longitude 131, and it's near Longitude 131 actually, and it's by the company. They actually also operate Longitude. So I think the people that are flying up to stay there will not be flying Jetstar. At least they'll be going charter flights because it's so expensive. But yes, and definitely, I mean, gosh, can't wait for that resort to open. That looks incredible. It's just got villas, like Longitude's pavilions, but this is going to be villas with plunge pools. And Uluru is just generally one of those places you can't explain, right? You just have to experience it. It's just hauntingly touching and spiritual, and I really felt that when I went there. The first time I went there. Great Ocean Road came in 4th. I do love Great Ocean Road, but gosh, it's busy. You just have to really pick the time of year that you go. Although driving along Great Ocean Road is the first time I ever saw a koala in the wild, so that was exciting. Kings Park and Botanic Garden Perth comes in next. Again, such a beautiful place. I mean, I've done a little run through there, jog through there when I was staying in Perth, and gosh, it's just so beautiful. It's actually one of the world's largest and most beautiful inner city parks, and the views are stunning as well because you just get views across the city. And nearly 2/3 of the park is natural bushland. And did you know, little fun fact for you, there are 319 native plants and about 80 bird species in there.
That is impressive. Speaking of animal species, the next one up on that list was Hartley's Crocodile Adventures between Cairns and Port Douglas, because who doesn't love a crocodile? I have not been to this one. I have visited Jumping Crocs in Catherine River in the Territory. But safe crocodile encounters are always important, don't you think? I mean, Hartley's got that thing, where they dangle the, they dangle the chicken like in Jumping Crocs. They just hang a raw chicken off a fishing rock and let the croc just snap up for it, which is probably better than the alternative, of accidentally getting yourself dragged into a river because, of course, we know they love foreigners more than they love Australians. Delicious.
Well, maybe I should have taken a raw chicken because up to Port Douglas, because when we were up there and we were cycling around, we stopped at this amazing cafe, and I must find out the name of it so I can tell you. And I'll put it in the show notes. And it was the guys there who was running it. Gosh, he was a character, and he was telling us about some incredible places to go. And he said, if you're only here for a really short time, because he was telling us that there are actually crocs in the river where the cafe was, but they aren't allowed to feed them, so there's no feeding chickens there because the council would fine them. So he said to us, if you want to go see a croc, just go to Cradley Bridge off the Captain Cook Highway, like 20 minutes out of town, and you can just stand there and see crocs in the river. And we drove up there. And on our way out of Port Douglas, when we were driving back to the airport, and we did stop there, and we were only there for about 10 minutes, and we saw crocs through that river. It was incredible. So you get all these people there's a little car park you can pull into, and you get all these people just jumping out. And I love when you can do these experiences just yourself, I mean, it's great to support those local tour operators, but it's also really nice when you can see, I mean, I just love seeing any animal in the wild, koala, wallaby, anything, but seeing a croc in the wild is just really cool. I mean, you definitely, unless you see someone popping off the highway there and going for a little dip, you'd be a bit worried.
I know, like that happened on in Catherine when they had big rains a couple of weeks ago, and there's one just literally sort of slaloming across the highway. I mean, God, fabulous, but please keep me in the car with the windows up. That was absolutely crazy. Coming in at number 8, more Botanic Gardens. This time it was the Royal Botanic Gardens in Victoria, and I have had some amazing moments in those winter light festivals where they have installations in the gardens, and I think they're just amazing. And also, the tan is there, so when you're in Melbourne, it's iconic. You've got to put on your best leisure wear and prance through with a coffee and stuff like that. So I think deservedly it deserves its place. I think it's 4Ks running around the tan. And that's gorgeous, that run around there. I think the Royal Botanic Gardens are just absolutely beautiful. And you can do a little go on the river too. And what is it? Do you do punting or kayaking or something? There's something you can do in there on the river. Yeah, you can punt through there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So pretty. Cool. And rounding out the top 10 are Sydney Opera House. I mean, love it or hate it, it's just worth a trip just to take in the beautiful harbour. And coming at number 10 is the MCG in Melbourne, which I didn't know this, but it was actually built in 1853, and it's the largest stadium in Australia. How amazing is that? So so we will put a link to these in the show notes.
Next week, we are going to Argentina because that's all anybody's been talking about for the last few weeks if you have been staying up late for the World Cup. So go to the home of Messi, go to see where Maradona, the hand of God, originated from. I am going to have your friend, Beck Arnold, who just knows her Argentina like the back of her hand. So stay tuned for that episode.
I can't wait to listen to that one because I do not know a lot about Argentina, and I think that's going to be fascinating. And we would love it if you follow us on socials. You'll find us at The World Awaits Podcast on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And feel free to drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au when we check it. Or if you're enjoying this episode, please give us a rating and review.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.